Alright, I'm having some technical difficulties. After all, that is why my channel is in the comedy category. So, title Halloween and Samhain, that's how it's pronounced, rituals. Now, October 31st, 2020, there was a very rare Halloween blue moon. A blue moon is when a full moon occurs twice in 1 month. And it just so happened that this blue moon occurred last night on the 31st. Now, this event is in a cycle, a rare cycle of approximately 18 to 19 years. And we're going to show you how this applies to the which is very similar to the Metonic cycle. Okay? And we've related this to the Apollo Sun second, will be called Hunter's Moon. But if you want to be technical, this is called the Hunter's Blue Moon. In other words, Hunter Biden's blue moon wave.
I was born in 1518 in the village of Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel, and I am immortal.
Happy Halloween, ladies.
Wow, everybody. Welcome to the Matrix. This is Mary Ann McLeod, and her birthday is May 10th. And she was born in 1912, and this date is very important because it showed up in a Quantum Leap episode. This exact date, her birthday, not the year, the date on the calendar, May 10th, showed up in this Quantum Leap episode in which Trump himself appeared as a 12-year-old boy with his father, Fred, and they were in this taxi cab. Now, in this Quantum Leap episode, which is set to his mother's birthday, Trump is in a cab with his dad in 1958. Well, that 58 number means something because it is the number of the northern parallel in the very place that Trump's mother was born, in the Isle of Lewis. There it is, 58.2 degrees north by 6.6 degrees west. The very small island where the time travel stones exist. So this is probably why Trump Tower is 58 stories tall and his penthouse is on the 66th floor. So there's something more to Trump than meets the eye. So what is this all about? Well, this is about time travel, and that's what we're going to get in today. Some theories about Trump's mother and whatever it is that this family knows or has knowledge of or has technology of. Something in his mother's bloodline paved the way for his presidency.
I am Conor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod.
The Trump Highlander Matrix revealed. This amazing story begins in the 1986 film Highlander, starring Christopher Lambert. Lambert plays the Highlander Conor MacLeod, the same clan surname of Trump's mother. Birthday, the 88th day of the year, March 29th. As does the wrestler pictured in the opening scenes. The film is about time travel, or at least the next best thing. Extended life that transcends generations. Here in more of the opening scenes, we see a flag with the red flames on a blue mountain that are specific to the coat of arms of the ancient MacLeods of the Isle of Lewis. Now, there were many MacLeod clans in the Upper Highlands of Scotland, but only one with this specific coat of arms on the Isle of Lewis. In other words, Trump's mother's ancient family coat of arms matches the one seen in Highlander, the film. So, in the film, he's banished from Scotland to New York when he fails to die from a fatal wound. They think it's a kind of sorcery or witchcraft. He doesn't die. He transcends time. They banish him. They accuse him of being a witch. And we know that Trump's mother also immigrated from the Scottish Highlands to New York.
There'll be no banning here today! We'll banish him!
MacLeod!
He takes on the identity of an art dealer and lives on Hudson Street. Trump has apartments on Hudson Street.
But you asked. I spent all night going through the old deeds to Nash's house on Hudson Street.
All right. Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States, assumed office January 20th, 2017. Born June 14th, 1946. Same date as a total lunar eclipse. Whoops. June 14th, 1946. "70 years, 7 months, and 7 days later would be January 20th, 2017, the day that Donald Trump assumed office. This is known as the Seven Sign. The cabal knew that whoever it was from their bloodline that was born on this lunar eclipse would be the last president of the United become the president of the United States. If we look very quickly, there was a writer by the name of Ingersoll Lockwood who lived from 1841 to 1918. Most notably known for writing the books Baron Trump and 1900, or The Last President. And there are several parallels. There are several parallels. Several, something that we'd have to get into in another video. The parallels between Ingersoll Lockwood. I would also like to point out that Casey finds an extremely synchronistic, or how you would say, non-coincidental appearance of Abraham Lincoln's name all over this Trump prophecy. And just to add to that, I'd like to put this there. So Queen also wrote the soundtrack for the movie Highlander. This will show you the importance of the the importance that they hold upon the women passing down the bloodline, which is the importance that which is the reason why we focus on Trump's mother, as opposed to, it's the reason why we focus on, so Trump's father claimed lineage from, he claimed Dutch descendancy. I believe it was. However, we find out that he is German on his father's side. The significance to this does not hold anything. Does not mean that he is a Nazi. I'm simply saying that he's lying about his lineage. Why? So that is the concern that we hold over what's known as the 7 sign.
Here you see the 77 trucks. And of course, we know all of the 77 synchronicities that are specific to Trump, as well as the 88 synchronicities. The connections between the TV series Outlander and the film Highlander are also very present. Both plots center around timeless beings. And Trump, whose mother was born 14 miles away from and 77 degrees from these time-traveling stones, is at the center of this story. Here are the stones here, and you can see they're in the shape of an inverted cross. Inverted crosses normally mean one thing, and one thing only. The star of Outlander, the TV series, Claire Fraser, was born with 88 days remaining in the year on October 4th. This is the mirror birthday of the Highlander main character and the Freebirds wrestler we just talked about. And of course, we know that Doc Brown's clock tower in Back to the Future struck 10:04 when Marty went 88 miles an hour to get through time. And now you are finally beginning to understand that the number 88 represents time travel. Does time travel really represent the immovable bloodlines that rule the world? Or is there more to this?
Here we are, we're the princes of the universe.
From the dawn of time we came, moving silently down through the centuries.
Bring victory to the clan MacLeod! MacLeod! Victory to MacLeod!
Living many secret lives, struggling to reach the time of the gathering.
When only a few of us are left, we will feel an irresistible pull towards a faraway land to fight for the prize.
And the few who remain will battle to the last. No one has ever known we were among you.
Here we are, born to be kings.
And here, to confirm our beliefs and findings, Tim Newark, an author, meets Donald Trump in Trump Tower, New York. They share Highland roots. Trump says of Tim's Highlander, "Great book. This is where I got my fighting spirit." So now we have a Back to the Future scenario. Biff as Trump. Now, Trump is very proud of his Scottish heritage, and he's invested heavily in Scotland. In fact, I believe this 2014 series is all about the rise of the Trump presidency, accurately depicting his mother as the character Claire Fraser from the Isle of Lewis in Scotland. Now, what makes this even more intriguing is that this film is all about a circle of stones through which time travel is possible. The stones depicted in the series are in the very place where Donald Trump's mother was born. This is Scotland. These are the standing stones on which Outlander, the Star series, was based, right out of the Isle of Lewis. And here's where Trump's mother was born, 14 miles and 77 degrees away. Now, in the book and the series, the stones were associated with druidic witchcraft, human sacrifice, and dark magic. Sacrifice was required to travel through the stones for certain people. The series centers around a great battle between the Redcoats and the Highlanders of Scotland, who wanted independence from England. Claire knows that the final Jacobite rebellion will end in the defeat and the end of the Highland way of life through the evictions of the clans. And she knows this because she traveled back in time. So the history books talked about this Jacobite rebellion and how it failed. Well, Trump's great-grandparents were at the center of what was called the Highland Clearances, which were the result of the Jacobite rebellion. The exact same plot as Outlander is mirrored in the history of Trump's family. So, were there any characters in the book or the film who shared the same last name as Trump's mother? Yes, there were. Granny MacLeod. That was Trump's mother's maiden name. And Granny MacLeod died in the arms of the time traveler, Claire Fraser. The fictional MacLeod sharing the same surname as Trump's mother. Now let's get into Claire's husband, Jamie, in the series. Her husband, I believe, is the Trump character. He's a Scot with red hair who battles the English through much of the first couple seasons. He's a Highlander from Scotland, fighting for their independence and freedom and rights. But then later in his life, he becomes a Freemason printer, as you can see here. So how does this stack up against Trump? Well, 3 of Trump's friends in this bar mitzvah picture joined the elite, just as Trump would. And 2 of his friends in this picture were printers. Let's take a look at Trump's grade school multimillionaire elementary school friends. Mr. Eric P. Seven, president of Petro Incorporated, a subsidiary of Petroleum Heat and Power Incorporated since November 1979, chief executive officer and chairman of the board of Petroleum Heat and Power Company since January 93, and executive officer of Energy Gas LLC, president of ORTEP of Pennsylvania Incorporated and Petrol Crystal Petroleum Company, Inc. Next on the list, Peter Bryant, who's worth $500 million. He's the chairman of White Birch Paper and CEO of Brant Publications. And finally, Paul Onish, president and CEO at the Envelope Printer Company. I don't know about you, but nobody in my grade school pictures went on to be a multimillionaire, let alone 4 of my friends in one picture. I guess we didn't go to the right schools. And we're supposed to believe he's not one of them. And I argue he's the very definition of one of them. Now, this goes much, much deeper. We're going to cover some things you haven't heard before. We're also going to review some of the things about the Scottish prophecies and also people on the Isle of Lewis that are still today, to this day, interacting with Donald Trump. This ties into his most current tax return. We're going to expose Unilever. We're also going to expose Harris Tweed. There's a lot to this, you guys. Now let's take a closer look at the Isle of Lewis, because what you're going to notice is in the name of the Isle of Lewis, it's Leodis. Well, that's a play on the word MacLeod. You can see the word MacLeod right in there. So this island is basically named after the MacLeod family, the maiden name of Trump's mother. Now here's where things get interesting. The Isle of Lewis and the Isle of Harris are really one big island. You can see it here on the map. The Isle of Lewis is highlighted in red. The Isle of Harris is down below. but it's really all one island. But for some reason, they split it up into two names. And during the Spanish flu of 1918, a millionaire named William Lever wanted to industrialize the Isle of Lewis, where Trump's mother lived, and she was 6 years old at that time. Remember, she was born in 1912. He purchased the entire island, and he established Leverburg in the Isle of Harris down here, just south of Lewis. And what did William do? He made soap, and is the founder of Unilever. And he's actually mentioned in Trump's tax return. Here it is right here. So everything that I just read to you is out of this Wikipedia article. Here's the guy here, William Lever. So what's going on with Trump and Unilever today? The Scottish president of Unilever appeared on Trump's Apprentice. Here he is here. Alan Jope was judge on Trump's Apprentice, and then he became president of Unilever. And lo and behold, Unilever, to the tune of millions, is in Trump's tax return. Let's read about it. Unilever, which was looking to promote a new version of its all-brand laundry detergent, concocted an entire multi-platform marketing campaign around Mr. Trump, of course. This goes back a century. In addition to $850,000 the company paid him directly. Tax records reveal he earned $250,000 more from public relations firm Unilever hired to help run ad campaign coined softness fit for Trump. Then Unilever staged a publicity stunt outside Trump Tower, where he hosted a laundry basket with an ad for all cleans and sofas stuck to the front. He had taken a break from the rigors of The Apprentice to wash donated clothes for charity, Unilever claimed. Here it is here. Here's Trump and Unilever. Unilever stunt. I guess they own all as well. I didn't know that. Starting to see what's going on here. There's more. As part of his agreement, Mr. Trump cold called journalists to talk up all detergent, telling a Boston Globe reporter, Unilever is a great company, and this is a product my mother used. See the connection there? He also recorded voiceovers for an online game that was part of an all sweepstakes in a tiny digital version of Trump did laundry and squawked one-liners. The Donald can do the work of 40 dry cleaners. It's all good until you remember the Economist cover. And this is where things go off the rails. Because Trump is actually sitting on a Unilever roll of toilet paper. In the other hand, he is holding this. The Globe from Harris Tweed, which also just so happens to be another connection to the Isle of Lewis. Harris Tweed is only made on the Isle of Lewis. You can't make this up. You can't stretch it, because when you look at what's in his hand right there, it is the orb. And this is the known symbol of Harris Tweed. Unilever makes lots of antibacterial. They also make a lot of toilet paper. Are you starting to see what's happening here? And this is why we didn't stop this dead in its tracks from the very beginning. Because they're all making money off of this. There are governors making money off of this. The only people not making money is you and me. Amazon is making a bunch of money off of this. Look at this. How our cleaning brands helped people cope with CV-19. This is Unilever's website.
Alright, these series of videos are little ad-libs, little additions into a larger project that I'm working on. The project is titled Copper. It is done by EnterTheStars, and I'm editing his body of work so that his message can be a little more organized. That being said, there are a few things that I have to ad-lib, whether it's because I don't want to go through all of his, I think he has 1,700 videos to find those little 30-second clips that I need, or because I can't remember if he was the one who brought this up. That being said, Casey over at Enter the Stars has brought up a great number of points, and that's why this series is kind of like an honor to his work. This part, this this video is titled Trump's Family Owns Scotland, and the reason is because the segment that I'm working on revolves around Unilever. So without any further ado. Now, Casey had previously covered Unilever and its connections to Trump. Unilever, which merged with the Lever Brothers in 1929. Here is the Lever Brothers Company, founded in 1885 by William Lever, William Lever, and his brother, I think it was, or somebody. Anyways, where's the Watson line? Here you go. They invested in a successfully promoted new soap making process invented by chemist William Howe Watson. Okay, now Sunlight was the brand of cleaning product. It was a dish. Oh wait, no, this is current. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Sunlight household soap was introduced by the British company Lever Brothers in 1884. World's first packaged branded soap, designed for washing clothes and general household use. Excuse me. The soap formula was invented by a Bolton chemist named William Hugh Watson, who also anyways, Watson's process created a new soap using glycerin and vegetable oils such as palm oil rather than tallow, which is animal fat taken from a specific area. Now, this method of creating soap is still used today. It is the natural, non-antibacterial type of soap. Now, if we're looking at how soap works, pin-shaped soap molecules have one end that bonds with water, and the other end bonds with oils and fats. Okay, now when people build up a soapy lather, the molecules help lift dirt, oil, and germs from the skin simply by the other end bonding with oil and fat. And this is how we remove dirt from our hands. However, I want you to understand that there was nothing antibacterial. There was nothing discussed about the destruction of living cells. Because we have skin microbes that help our immune system. Now, when we destroy, I'm not going away from the act of sterilization in medical practices. I'm just trying to distinguish a specific fact regarding this entire debacle. Research in mice shows that certain skin microbes help the immune system. That being said, you cannot get into the bacteria under your fingernails. You cannot get the bacteria that finds its way under your skin cells because the outer layer of your skin is essentially dead. Also, when you wash your hands, you are removing the soldiers that your body has on the skin surface. This is a very, very, very interesting point that that may need further discussion and debate, because there are systems out there of washing hands with simple water that has a high pH, therefore killing all the acidic living bacteria, but the bacteria that are able to survive. Anyways, uh, one of the individuals that I would like to bring up is Arnold Ehret. He lived from 1866 to 1922. He's the one who focuses on dieting, detoxification, fasting, and he has some very interesting views, but one of the things that he was most known for is being able to cure cancer and many other diseases through these methods. The way that he died in 1922, he was walking with I guess you could call it a fan. The last known person that Arnold Ehret was with was a woman by the name, a fan, of Anita Bauer. Bauer, B-A-U-E-R, like Jack Bauer from the movie 24, is the former surname of the family who rules the world, Rothschild. Ehret was found laying face up in the street with a wound to his head. They ruled it as an accidental slip and fall. Now, later that year, in 1920, Thomas Milton Rivers, heralded as the father of modern virology, in 1922, headed by the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, created the mantra that germs and bacteria are the cause of disease and sickness, and that drugs and vaccines are the cure. All of this happened during a plague that, according to Rudolf Joseph Steiner, was caused by the introduction of radio waves, which is why we talk about Trump being the 5G wizard.
And all of this goes back to 1918, the influenza spamdemic, and the founding of Unilever Soap on the island where Trump's mother was born. This is a Vanity Fair article Donald Trump talks about that she had. Mary had her reasons for setting sail for America at age 17, both pragmatic and social. Stay and her main job prospects would be weaving the local hare's tweed or working as a fishing girl curing herring. They forgot to mention Unilever. And, of course, Trump also ordered a Harris tweed jacket. Here is the seamstress, I guess you call her. A suit fit for U.S. President, a tailor, I guess you call it. Claimed Donald Trump among their clientele. So what does this all mean? A 2014 series that so closely resembles the life of a man that wouldn't be president for almost 3 years. Stories of time travel, witchcraft, human sacrifice, and political drama. It could mean nothing, or it could mean everything. One thing's for sure, nothing is what it seems.
All right. The title here is The Apollo Moon. And now we will lead off into the next chapter of this, titled The Apollo Moon. The Apollo Moon features metatonic cycles, which are a 19-year cycle in the heavens. It is a Babylonian and a Hebrew lunisolar calendar. Diodorus Siculus reports that Apollo is said to have visited the Hyperboreans once every 19 years. This chapter begins with an analysis of the World Trade Center and how it and coronavirus occurred on a 19-year Metonic cycle, and how this relates to the Apollo sun god, the Apollo moon missions, which is why I'll bring up the next picture. As above, so below. After all, they are the same thing. And here we have a, go back. And here we have a scene from this series, Outlanders, prior to Claire Fraser traveling back in time, watching a live broadcast of the Apollo moon mission.
And the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
How do you take a trip like that and come back to life as you knew?
And let it divide the waters from the water. And let it divide the waters from the water. And God made the firmament. And God made the firmament. And divided the waters which were...
I had been, in many ways, further than the moon, on an even more impossible journey. But maybe it was enough to have gone one.
Maybe it was enough to have gone one. We close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you.
I was born in 1518.
And the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
How do you take a trip like that and come back to life as you knew?
And let it divide the waters from the water. And let it divide the waters from the water. And God made the firmament. And God made the firmament. And divided the waters which were...
I had been, in many ways, further than the moon, on an even more impossible journey. But maybe it was enough to have gone one.
Maybe it was enough to have gone one. We close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you.
I was born in 1518 in the village of Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel, and I am immortal.
Happy Halloween, ladies.
Now, what is so special about this 19-year cycle? Well, I decided to look that up too. Because it's biblical, spiritual, and astronomical. What are you talking about, Casey? Well, Jesus' mother, Mary, is mentioned 19 times in the Bible. And Israel, the ancient Israel, not today's Israel, was ruled by 19 kings before God allowed them to be conquered by the Assyrians. And the Israelite tribe of Naphtali received 19 cities with their villages as part of their inheritance to the Promised Land. Their gift of land from God was in the northernmost part of what would become Israel. It encompassed the entire western section of the Sea of Galilee. Now here's where things get really spooky. Because the 7 feast days of the Bible, they are kept using the 19-year calendar, the Hebrew calendar, the 7 feast days, and the total number of God's feast days, because remember, several of them repeat. This is huge, you guys. there are 19 total. Here they are right here. Passover, 1. Days of Unleavened Bread, 7 days. Pentecost, 1. Day of Trumpets, 1. Day of Atonement, 1. Feast of Tabernacles, 7. And the last great day, 1. That's 19 total feast days. But there's more. Because both the sun and the moon repeat their exact same position and location and phase in the sky every 19 years. And when their positions overlap, we get duplicate eclipses every 19 years. So, when people tell me that these 19 tridents on the facade of the tower don't mean anything, I laugh, because you have to be completely asleep not to understand what I just told you. Enter the stars, and a strange building is connected to Trump Tower by way of a glass house, an atrium. The building looks a lot like Trump Tower, and even faces in the same direction. It's called the IBM building, and it houses some very peculiar companies. Bain Capital, for one. Remember Mitt Romney's Bain Capital? And Romney's Bain Capital has been compared to Batman's Bain Company. Another tenant of this strange building is CEMEX, connected to a PSYOP that went down several months ago regarding a trafficking camp in Arizona near the border. Now, this is the opening scene in the film. He wakes up at 3:29. Well, on the calendar, March 29th is the 88th day of the year. This is why they shine 88 xenon lights in memoriam of the event every single year.
Good morning. 64 degrees. It is Tuesday, and here's what's happening. 64 degrees. 64 degrees.
The film opens with the two survivors. They go in with a whole squad of cops, but they come out just the two of them. So the film opens with the two men and closes with the two men. And you heard the radio, 64 degrees, and the other man walks out his front door and it's 46 on the address. That's called a mirror, which is exactly what I told you guys. Everything these people do is in mirrors. 4664 just so happens to be the year that Trump was born, 1946. Trump is all over this film.
Hello, officer. We'll find bus center.
So this is the point in the film where the first plane flies overhead, and right beneath it, you see Zoolander, the Zoolander billboard, which came out that year. So it's not, on the surface, you're thinking, oh, it's a big deal, Casey. The film came out that year. Well, who stars, or not stars in the film, but who made an appearance in the film Zoolander? Of course, it was Trump.
Without Derek Zoolander, male modeling wouldn't be what it is today.
Now, Zoolander was filmed long before Blind 11, of course, yet the opening sequence is the exact flight path of Flight 175 that struck one of the towers. Watch. There's the flight path right there. 175 came in right inside, right over the statue.
You aren't rescuing anybody if you can't breathe.
So, obviously, they have the breathing apparatus, but the theme of not being able to breathe is very prominent in this film. And here we are again, 19 years later, with this breathing illness called CV-19. And he says, you're not going to be able to rescue anybody if you can't breathe.
Rodriguez, stay focused.
Yeah, but I probably just have the flu.
People were coming out with masks over their face. Anything they could put over their face.
No mask over their face. No mask over their face. No mask over their face. Anything they could put over their face.
Because the air was still very thick with...
A nation is being tested. But make no mistake, we will show the world that we will pass this test.
Enter Michael Shannon, who basically in the film represents a Marine who finds the two cops that are buried in the rubble. He finds them. He doesn't give up. In fact, he does this in the middle of the night. He's walking around the rubble pile, banging on, yelling out to see if there are any survivors. But here's what's creepy about Michael Shannon. He was born the same date that Trump's mother died. How old was she when she died? Of course, 88 years old. This is the 88 code. This is it. It's time and space.
Conqueror of time. In this context, I'd say more like master of the uncertain past. You're a skilled linguist, Dr. Jackson? I need more time. Once I've correctly deciphered the symbols on the altar, I will be able to master the time device.
Why? So you can be king of Groundhog Day?
Catch your breath and you sleep now. Don't whisper, it's too loud.
Is this supposed to be doing that?
It's a coronal mass emission, like a giant solar flare.
But it's safe, right? I distinctly remember sitting here listening to Carter prattle on about solar activity and a corona something.
Coronal mass emissions, I was just about to bring it up.
The P4X639 was once a colony of the ancients. They thrived there for thousands of years until they were struck with some sort of unspecified cataclysm, perhaps a disease.
Perhaps a disease.
2 weeks ago, SG-15 took these images of solar activity on P4X639.
In any case, facing certain destruction, they built the time machine.
They were going to go back and change their history to avoid their fate.
Right, but it didn't work.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Going on again about being obsolete.
Think about it, Sam. I mean, look, we've all taken the anti-aging vaccine, the anti-cancer vaccine.
My fellow Americans, 10 years ago this very day, a team codenamed SG-1 came upon an alien race, the Ashen.
And now the Ashen have these medical machines that can reverse tissue damage and mend broken bones. I mean, where does that leave me? You can't have children. So maybe this has happened to some other people. Do, general search, human reproductive statistics.
Oh, that can't be right. Well, if I'm reading this properly, the worldwide birth rate has dropped almost 91%.
91%, 91%, 91%, 91%.
In the last 2 years.
It's supposed to be a third of that. Shen insisted on it.
Oh my God.
Honey, they see further ahead than we do. They knew that if we didn't limit growth, we would.
Hey, is that what you call this?
Well, obviously, this is not what we agreed to.
I can't believe this.
The population was unsustainable. Without drastic measures, the Shen didn't think we were worth investing in.
What?
Well, that's what it says right here. These are the Shen numbers.
Yeah, but we would know.
It's happening everywhere the anti-aging vaccine has gone.
And with that introduction, I was able to forge the greatest alliance this country, indeed, this world, has ever known.
Guys, I think it would be public knowledge if something this catastrophic was happening to the entire population.
Willing to share their science and technology? Friendly. Smarter than we are.
Would it? I mean, the Shen can convert planets into stars. You don't think they could control the media if they wanted to?
It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years.
Why now? Assuming the Shen can keep something this big a secret.
We were completely taken in. This way, they didn't have to fire a shot. It's slow, methodical, painless. We got into the Shen computer network. They keep statistics on everything.
Okay, then why provide a vaccine that almost doubles the human lifespan? That doesn't make any sense.
Unless that's the mechanism they use to sterilize the population.
In the last couple of years, without our even knowing it, they have managed to sterilize over 90% of the world's population. They're certainly patient enough. All they have to do is wait.
And within 200 years, there will be very few, if any, humans remaining.
I mean, the other 10% are probably just a matter of time.
The Shen will have this world unto themselves. Well, we have to do something. I don't know. I mean, tell somebody.
A number of years ago, a freak accident sent us back to 1969. We know that by dialing coordinates that are precisely on the opposite side of the sun at the exact moment of a solar flare, it creates a time distortion. It causes the wormhole to turn back towards Earth on itself. Now, theoretically, we could send ourselves a message.
It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years.
Why now?
It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years.
Why now?
This is an example of a bioweapon we can make available to you.
The Shen vaccine had a side effect.
The Shen vaccine had a side effect, had a side effect, had a side effect.
Oh, some big black letters. A Shen vaccine causes something. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's a good thing.
Would you read this aloud for me? I couldn't quite translate it.
Of course. Sterility.
These pictures appear to be much like those we saw of people celebrating.
I don't think they're celebrating. I think they're rioting.
I think they're rioting. I think they're rioting.
A living, radioactive genetic material that may be designed to attack and destroy only the specific DNA of your enemy.
Here's what we know. Around 200 years ago, the Volians were a thriving urban civilization, approximating turn of the century North America in terms of technology.
We have a number of efficient delivery systems.
What happened to them?
Well, all we know is that there was a flu pandemic, similar to the one on Earth in 1918 that killed over 20 million people. Now that is when the Shen came.
So I'm the only one that has a bad feeling about this.
Here's something. The headline says something about a pandemic, some sort of... I can't translate that, maybe fever. They befriended the Volians, offered them a vaccine for their epidemic, and saved their world. Now, by all accounts, the Shen were heroes to the Volians, and their friendship lasted for years. They provided a, can't translate that word either, but it appears to have been some sort of vaccine. And the Volian people were immensely grateful. But then, something happened.
What?
I don't know.
What's the future really like, Colonel? You can tell me.
As far as I know, it hasn't happened yet.
But it has for you.
This word loosely translates as medicine, vaccine, drug, followed by from the newcomers.
Hell, you've been back in time, forward in time. You've seen it all. I just wonder how things turn out.
Followed by causes, followed by some word I can't translate.
Sterility.
Now, this was the latest issue of the paper we could find, which most likely indicates the paper shut down or was shut down the very next day.
Vaccine causes what?
Sterility.
Because in the span of 200 years, the Voyans went from an urban civilization of millions to an agrarian civilization of thousands, after they were saved by the Ashen.
And I wonder how far you'd go to stop me from becoming president of the United States.
General, you have to speak to the president.
I just tried. He's being briefed by the ambassador and won't take my call.
You knew what you were planning, Mullen. This just confirms it. Vaccine causes sterility. That was the headline. You wiped out most of the Volian population and turned their entire world into farmland. General, you have to speak to the president. And do the same to Earth. When they knew we were onto them, they launched a bioweapon.
Colonel!
I had to warn you. I couldn't wait for the ambassador. I'm sorry, sir.
General, you have to speak to the president.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it.
At some point, a beam shot out from the ruins around the altar and hit the Stargate. Then I was back in the commissary eating my Fruit Loops.
You were sent back in time.
For what, 6 hours?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen something like this. I mean, the Stargate did send us back to 1969.
To 1969? To 1969?
I'm fairly certain that we've traveled back in time, roughly about 30 years.
Assuming we locate the Stargate, how then do we get back to the future?
Back to the future. Back to the future.
Chevron 5, locked.
Then the hands break. Are you scared now? Don't be scared now. There's still time. It's not hard when it's not far. You're not lost.
Chevron 6, locked.
Daniel?
I broke down the film The 13 Ghosts, I think it's called 13 Ghosts. And that film released in 2001 as well, just before Halloween. It actually released on Hillary Clinton's birthday. But the film was all about a time machine that could only operate through human sacrifice. the time machine was built out of copper. There's even a Lincoln character. Everything that we've been telling you guys is coming to fruition, forwards and backwards in time. Now, obviously, there's no way I could have known all these things. I just have been randomly picking these films, and these themes just keep popping up. But as we all who are believers know, I wasn't picking these randomly. God is helping us pick these films. The Holy Spirit is working to reveal evil so that people can finally wake up. So, I'll premiere that montage over the weekend, and then Monday we'll break that one down. But it's basically a glass house filled with copper, and it's a time machine. Keep going. Now, this building is shaped like Superman's chest insignia, and both the IBM building and Trump Tower both opened in the same year, 1983. Twin buildings, 83 and 83, is 166. And it's strange because people keep asking me how Trump Tower, a 58-story building, can have a 66th floor penthouse. And that is a question that I'd like to know the answer to as well. But there you have it. 83 and 83 is 166, which suggests there's more to the IBM building as it relates to Trump than meets the eye. Oh, but it gets better, because the Turnow time machine, the world-famous watch dealer, also had its home in the IBM building on the first floor, just yards away from Trump Tower's famous street clock. So, are the two buildings connected in other ways? Let's take a look. When Trump took office, it didn't take long to tap Ginny Rometty, which sounds a lot like Romney, of IBM, to help with tech developments under his administration. They talk a lot about artificial intelligence and driverless cars, all of which can only be made possible with 5G. Whiz.
His investments in infrastructure could be taken to mean infrastructure that will be tech friendly as well. So not just the roads, but we'll need a next generation of intelligent sensors and so forth if we're going to have autonomous vehicles or even just smart vehicles that will need information.
And it's interesting that Trump Tower looks a lot like cell phone signals, does it not? And he signed into legislation 5G whiz and beyond to enable the very driverless cars that he's working with IBM to manufacture. Now here's where things get even more strange, because the two buildings have a height difference of 61 feet, which just so happens to be the Hebrew year that two other towers nearby would fall down. 5761 is 2001. Now, the Superman IBM building has in its cutout this 6 plus 6 plus 6 foot high orange sculpture known as Sauron. You know, like Sauron in the Two Towers Lord of the Rings trilogy? And this sculpture is described as a reptile. It was like the buildings were put in place, pre-planned to manifest the future reality. And 33 years after both buildings opened, Donald Trump would become president. And now I think we know the meaning to the 2007 film, I Am Legend. The Superman vs. Batman Easter egg that appears in a film about a worldwide rabies spamdemic spawned by a cancer VC. Take care and be safe, you guys.
Look right here. If my calculations are correct, there should be a flare in about 5 seconds.
That's it?
Now all we need is for the computer to predict another flare. We have a flare prediction, 57 minutes from now.
57 minutes from now. "57 minutes from now. 57 minutes from now."
Is that enough time?
It'll have to do.
Mullen. Mullum. I'm sorry. Mullum.
Now, theoretically, we could send ourselves a message.
What is it? You tell me?
Under no circumstances go to P4C 970 Colonel Jack O'Neill.
I wonder why you sent it. I wonder when.
I'm recording infinite anomalies.
Thank you for coming in, Mrs. Ntaka. Changes in the young children, the kind of stuff the overlords are taking an interest in.
Be safe here. Again, Jerry. Safe from what?
He's talking about this, a small patch with not just one needle, but 100 of them, each one dissolving into your skin after applying the patch with little to no discomfort.
The microneedles are as tall as just a few hairs are thick.
How exactly does this work?
You take this patch, you would apply it to the wrist. So press it here to the wrist, you push down firmly, then you leave it in place for a few minutes. When you're done, you can peel it off and throw it away.
So inside each of these needles is the medication?
That's right. Here are some microneedles before use. We then press them into the skin for 5 minutes, pull them out, and they're gone.
They just disappear.
A nice feature here is that there are no needles there when you're all finished, and that's an important safety advantage.
The main purpose of this is to administer drugs.
No more children will be born on Earth ever again. No more children will be born on Earth. Your children are no longer yours. In time, they will cease to be human. No more children will be born on Earth. My hope is that humanity will go to its rest in peace. For the adults, your future is yours to live as you please for however many days are left.
No, Jennifer! Jen? No! Jen!
No one wants to play with the clown anymore. You wouldn't want anyone to know what you're hiding.
All sorts of surprises down here. And balloons, too. All colors.
Do they float? Do they float? Do they float? No, Jennifer! Honey! She's not gonna have it, Johnny, no!
Oh, yes. They float, Georgie. They float. And when you're down here with me, you float too!
Those who impede progress, the disruptive, the aberrant, will be systematically purged from our society. For some, this will be the end. Go home to your loved ones. Hold your daughter tight, because a new day is dawning. There will be no mercy. But for others, a rebirth. No stay of execution. Every life given a purpose, Samaritan will build a new world. A second chance to live the life they were designed for. A better world is about to begin. The correction.
Correction? Samaritan is planning an attack. When?
The ferry bombing. You sanctioned Nathan Ingram's death along with all the other innocent people.
Time to make a deal.
Detective Riley, the Elias era is over. New World Order. I want the keys to the city.
There are no keys. No arrangements.
May 6, what have you heard? Any operations in and around the Capitol? I have reason to believe an attack is going to take place in the next 24 hours. It's called the Correction.
Operational quarantine.
Do not disturb, nobody in or out. Columbia Heights.
Lock down all the exits. Lock down all the exits.
Quarantine address, Columbia Heights.
Get the ratchet.
Take some balls turning off the book's ops in a quarantined address.
Why are we breaking into this place?
That quarantine order from research? I never ordered it.
Lock down all the exits.
15 laptops, huh? Started?
Trying to avoid a shutdown, actually.
That smell.
Ammonium nitrate, fertilizer.
Why's the lid cut off?
Built a bomb.
Samaritan. We need to pull the feeds. Line the damn thing now.
Why would we blind the single greatest watchdog America has ever had?
And Samaritan is his weapon. There's gonna be a bomb that detonates here in D.C. tomorrow. You know how the wheels spin in this city. A few pawns get fired, but the person who's really responsible just gets a bigger checkbook.
Real control is invisible, surgical. It interferes only when necessary. Most of humanity is docile, pliant. It's only ever a few hundred people that create all of the problems.
We haven't failed yet. You had an impossible challenge. One I never programmed before. Root, I don't think the machine can help us anymore. The machine is here. It's here because it's everywhere. The machine gave up its location to save our lives. This is one of any number of city substations devoted to the distribution of electricity across the southern half of New York. The machine is using the power grid as a giant brain. So when the machine moved itself, it didn't go to a data farm. It went into the wires. It uploaded itself directly into the nation's electrical grid. Essentially, there's a tremendous amount of unused space in copper power lines. The boxes on the lines allow the machine's digital signals to travel in that space.
A highly complex computational system hiding in plain sight.
The bank that a plane flew into just 600 times 60 times 60 seconds before he was born in 1946. What you're about to see is what is called the construct. Demonic influence which possesses those who work in Hollywood to foreshadow the plans of the devil. You see, the Hollywood script is the dark side version of the Holy Scripture. The devil wants to be like the Most High and elevate himself above God. And God gave us eyes to see these things and to expose them so that you will no longer be deceived. Now, based on our research over the past several years, what has been revealed to me is that Helios, or Sol Invictus, is the spirit or the demon that possesses New York and its leaders in the Big Apple. They are the princes of darkness. So what is this show all about? Well, it's about two competing artificial intelligences. One is called the Machine and the other is called the Samaritan. And both are evil, but they want you to believe that one is good and one is not. They're portrayed as all-knowing and all-seeing, and they tap into the city and the world's camera and microphone system in order to enact complete control on everyone that is living there. holding the world in balance by silently killing anyone who threatens that balance. Does this sound familiar? We heard and saw this in the last season of Westworld. It had the same exact theme, but in that series the AIs were named Jeroboam and Solomon. Now I was shocked to see Jim Caviezel in this series taking his orders from the artificial intelligence. You see, everybody that makes it through the glass ceiling of influence has already been corrupted. Now it's interesting because there's an aspect to this when they descend down into the vault of Trump's building. You'll see them going down into a pneumatic tube system. Now you can make of that what you will. Pneumatic, pneumonia, both mean air, hot air. This hot air pneumatic tube system was prominent underneath New York City and Manhattan. They also have one of these in Paris. Go figure, right? Statue of Liberty is from Paris, and we both have pneumatic tube systems. Ours was operational until the 1960s, but one of the hubs seems to be directly beneath Trump's building. And I began to see the connections between this hot air and helium, helios, hot air rising, helium rising into the stratosphere. And I began to see this connection in the film called The Wiz that came out in 1978. It starred Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. And The Wizard of Oz explains that he was a politician, a corrupt politician, and that he got his power to be Emperor or the Wizard of Oz when he flew his balloon over Atlantic City. You know, like Trump's casino. And he said that when he went into like another dimension somehow. And then you see that he shines the light. That's Helios. That's the sun god. And that when he got to the wizard, or when he got to Oz, that the people had never seen this balloon before and began to worship him and made him the wizard. And I'm starting to wonder if something similar hasn't happened in our reality. Some machine, helium, Helios, that was shown to these leaders to make them give in to what we're going through right now. So, back to person of interest. They're down in the basement, in the vault, just like in The Wiz. And of course there are rival gangs called the Brotherhood. And then we get the iPad Go-To overlay, Fool Me Once. Now all of this points back to election days. We've been tracking these election days and seeing how they overlay one another. How Lincoln was elected his second time on Dunce Day, November 8th. And how in 2016 Trump was elected on Dunce Day, November 8th. So this stuff is pretty crazy. They even mentioned quarantine and lockdowns and shutdowns in this episode, these last two episodes of Person of Interest. I wish that I was making all this up, but there it is right there in the script, in the devil's scripture. They talk about not getting enough air. Everything that we're going through right now. Now, this is where they get into the correction or the reset. And they talk about how one of these AIs is planning to reset everything. And that's exactly what CV-19 has done. It has reset everything. Now, this reset is supposed to happen on May 6th in the series. And I don't know how that dovetails in, but they do talk about Supreme Court justices and a planned attack on the Supreme Court justices. We know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died of old age. I don't think she was taken out. Many people think she was. But how does that fit into all of this? It's very difficult to tell. But they talk about the end. They talk about everything catching fire. They talk about a great reset in this last episode of Person of Interest. Now, the reset includes a purge, getting rid of all the dissidents and people that don't agree with their system. And you can be guaranteed that that will include people like us as they try to create their world order. And of course, they mention the world order in this episode as well. And just like in many of the other films that we've decoded, they mention keys to the city, which the Brotherhood faction wants to take away from Elias, who I believe is like the Trump character. And of course, Trump loves his keys. Why? Because of Janice, Bifrons, Biff, as well as Gemini. So this goes on. Here are the quarantine mentions over and over again. This place on Columbus, or in Columbus, Columbia Heights, is protected. It's under quarantine. They raid the location. They find BOMBS as part of the reset as they try to shut it down or stop it from happening. Then there's a blackout as one of the AIs tries to use that blackout to defend itself, but I believe that this is really a metaphor for the VIRUS that was coming and that they knew was coming. Remember, all of this came about and aired several months before Trump would ever announce his presidency. And then we get the 5G aspect to all of this, as the workers on the lines don't even look at what they're installing. They never even took the time to understand what was really going on right before their eyes. And everything that we talked about, the copper lines, is coming to fruition as they install these, I call them Trump boxes, the 5G whiz technology that nobody wants to ask questions about, but yet we're all willing to build our own infrastructure of death. And so it turns out that the copper boxes and the copper lines become the home or the brain for one of these AIs that they are trying to save. And this is everything we've been talking about. Abraham Lincoln, the telegraph president, the copper president, under which the transatlantic copper telegraph lines were installed. And here we are, full circle, with 5G whiz and all of the copper that will be needed for it in these towers. So all of the clues are there if you have eyes to see. We've come full circle. Telegraph of 1858, the transatlantic telegraph line, and now copper coin shortages. Most coins are 90% copper. Dimes, quarters, pennies have a small coating of copper. But this might make sense as to why we have this coin shortage. And of course, the coin shortage also has to do with the currency reset. But why would they start with coins? Well, now we know they need the copper to finalize the last parts of our own prison. Because see, if they were to just start building up the copper mine infrastructure, that would raise a flag, wouldn't it? So why not just ask for the coins back and do away with certain coins in order to free up that copper? That would be a lot less suspicious, wouldn't it? So these pneumatic tubes are a metaphor for the World Wide Web. They were the first means of instant communication after the telegraph And then they were replaced with power lines. Power lines that we could communicate through. Electronic lines that then evolved into networks, and now we are at 5G Wiz, the network that will change everything. By the end of the season, the machine is downloaded into some hard drives. It is overtaken by the attack. And that's where it ends. The machine. And this is where we're all headed. Take care and be safe, you guys. So far, these 2 single episodes at the end of Season 4 of a show called Person of Interest. These are the only 2 instances that I can find of anything filmed inside of Trump's 40 Wall Street copper-topped bank.
Mr. Reese, I was thinking that you and Detective Fusco might stop by the bank.
Might stop by the bank. Might stop by the bank.
You need us to make a deposit, Finch? The canister from the crime scene is a remnant of a long-defunct pneumatic tube mail network that once ran beneath the city. One of its hubs was an old retail bank.
Might stop by the bank.
Which has recently found new ownership. Which has recently found new ownership. Mr. Elias appears to have revived it to conceal his communications. Smuggle murder weapons into highly secured government buildings.
Smuggle murder weapons into highly secured government buildings.
Did I leave a breadcrumb?
Just wondering what's up your sleeve. Trapdoor, pneumatic tubes rigged with C4.
Pneumatic tubes rigged with C4.
Looks like the spot. You got a plan to get in, partner? Relax. I got a backstage pass. Done. We're in the bank, Finch.
We're in the bank, Finch.
With a wave of brownouts spreading across the U.S., experts expect power surges and outages up the East Coast and into the greater New York area.
John, look out your window. On the power lines, do you see any boxes? I see one. It's marked with a T. Why?
But why aren't we allowed to see what's inside? I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
Last guy who had your job, he opened up one of those boxes. Next day, he was gone.
We've been replacing these things for how many months now? You've never been tempted to see what's inside.
It's a line conditioning box. It's all you need to know. It's all I know.
You're the boss.
Time travel?
That's what she said. She somehow found a way to travel back in time. How did she do this?
Question is, where's the time machine now? The puddle jumper they escaped in must have been some sort of a time machine. It had to have an additional component built into it. Flux capacitor.
You're awake?
His name was Jonas.
Jonas.
He healed my wounds and explained to me what had happened. He was the one who built it. He explained to me that the ship we had escaped in was a time machine.
It is because of my experiments that we now have the opportunity.
Enough! I am hereby ordering the destruction of this time travel device and all the materials connected with its design.
We call you the Ancients, the Gate Builders. Of course, Janus refused to concede defeat. He came up with an alternate plan behind the Council's back.
I have to find a way to extend the supply of power.
What Simon told us afterwards. Breathe.
Breathe. Breathe.
Among other things.
What are you trying to pull? King Archon is a prophet.
I can read the future. I can read the future. It's all part of the prophecy.
Abraham, what the hell is going on here?
The script on these walls is a historical log compiled by an ancient who traveled through time to study the evolution of life on this world.
We know the ancients experimented with time travel.
There are references to the time travel device itself. Now, it's described as being inside a small ship. Now, if I'm right, it may still be here. So what's this?
Could be the time device.
It bears little resemblance to ancient designs we have previously encountered.
Well, judging from Mayborn's wall, it must have worked at some point.
I guess congratulations are in order. You made general.
You made king.
Right, well, it's not a contest.
Did this prophecy mention anything about casualties? How many people would die in the fighting? Does it say anything about the king surviving at all? You want to roll those dice?
Actually, there's no reference to me specifically. I just assumed.
Yeah, do you really want to take that chance, Harry?
No, just leave that. That stuff over there.
Good King Archon is a fraud.
Our king is wise. He is a seer.
He may be your king, but he's no seer. He may be your king, but he's no seer.
He can only interpret what's been written on the pillars of the temple ruins not far from here.
Am a pretender. I took advantage of you and...
Archon the First! Archon! 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 Archon!
What happened? Well, like I said, they don't even know what a ZPM is. To them, it's like any number of dozens of ritualistic objects they pull up for any number of occasions. Besides, he...
He's wearing the shiny suit.
Look beside you.
What if it's a bomb or a virus?
Or a virus. Or a virus.
You think of that?
Of course I thought about that. But don't you think that if that was their intention, they could have done it themselves at any point?
Well, think about it, Ricky. So far, these aliens have been overwhelmingly demonstrative and secretive. First cure occurred the same minute that you opened the vial.
Maybe they are going to cure everything.
You tell me. We're looking at a 60% recovery in patients presenting with leukemia, Hodgkin's lymphoma, pulmonary lung disease.
They brought certainty and stability. At least that's how it seemed to us at first.
While you're standing back there, hiding your face, look at this. Have you seen these?
Why, don't mind the centipede. Don't mind the centipede. Don't mind the centipede. Don't mind the centipede.
I look back now and shudder. We were all under a spell.
Man needs a lot more psychological preparation before we can show ourselves.
Mom got clean and looked younger than ever before. In fact, everyone did. Youth of Utopia, they called it.
Youth of Utopia, they called it. Youth of Utopia, they called it.
The Earth was being reborn, so to speak, and right now was waiting to meet their guardian.
Most of these are empty. When folk found out they didn't have to earn money, they just cleared on out into the wide open spaces.
Hey, look at this. Everything's changed.
Now, it does appear to be docking with the arrival ramp.
Catch your breath and you sleep now. Don't whisper, it's too loud. Live every beat per moment. So hard when it's so far and you're lost. Fight it, then the hands break. Are you scared now? Don't be scared now. There's still time. It's not hard when it's not far. You're not lost. Catch your breath and you sleep now. Don't whisper, it's too loud. Live every beat per moment. So hard when it's
It's now the year 2035, and just look at us. It's easy if 19 years after the Overlord's arrival.
19 years after the Overlord's arrival.
There's no heaven. 4 years after Corellum revealed his true form, we're living our lives under their watchful gaze. The birth rate is soaring. We have a world that we are proud to bring children into. It's the golden age of man.
And no religion.
Utopia. I want to know why.
Someday you'll join us. And the world will live as one.
Faith is on its last legs. It's just we don't see it. Because they give us ice cream.
They do. But hey, if God wants to trump Corellum, bring it on. Isn't there something in the Bible about barren women having children? Barren with Trump.
Barren with Trump, barren with Trump, barren with Trump.
I have stopped you having children. I have stopped you having children. I have stopped you having children.
What is it about these stones?
Alright, let's try that again. The title of the video is Christmas Eve Special. So I'm saying that today is Christmas Eve. And my question is, will Christmas be delayed by 3 days? What I mean by that is, how long until they announce the winner of these primary elections? That might not be the proper word. When I say primary, I mean first round of elections. It is my theory that there will be a second round of elections after the contesting of the validity of mail-in voting. This was the reason that Donald Trump jammed the Supreme Court justice in prior to the election. My previous videos revolve around the zone of approximate 333 to 330 being an algorithm zone that the market makers are manipulating all this area to create a sell-off. In layman's terms, a Bermuda Triangle zone in the stock market that will cause a glitch and a massive crash, or a massive run-up. I don't know. Maybe both. So, as we're going into today, the markets are about to open up on what I'm calling Christmas Eve. Will the election be delayed by 3 days? Will they use this algo zone to sell off? Okay. I do not think that today's buying, that this uptrend, I do not think that it's natural. From what I've heard, a lot of users, a lot of traders are getting, a lot of their shorts are having to be covered because they were betting that the stock market would fall before this date. Therefore, the conditions of their bet was that they would, if the stock didn't fall, they would be forced to purchase those stocks at whatever price their conditions were. And therefore, this is causing a lot of users to be forced to purchase stocks. So this increase is ingenuine, and it has not enough support and can sell off. So my theory could be they might float it for potentially 3 days and drop it through the algo zone. Let me fix the scale on this. They might float it for a few days and drop it through the algo zone, this zone right here, into any point on the graph. And I have to go out very far to show y'all just how bad this can get. Skew. I don't know why, but my graphs are so askew right now. Just to show y'all how bad everything can get. We don't know. This is, everything centers around here. Will we have to wait 3 days? I don't know. I have said in my previous videos, this is an algorithm zone. I've said that they're dancing around the zone for a move. I have said that I believe that Biden will win because Trump will contest the ACA. Therefore, a Biden win, in my opinion, will cause an initial sell-off. And since the current price is above the algo zone, a downward move through the algo zone would prompt a sell-off. That's my thoughts on this algo zone theory. See, we have to wait to see what today does. And I've said it may take 3 days to reveal the winner. 3 days is just that typical number that they like to use. Again, so they could float it so that they get momentum, or so that they get people squeezed out here, okay, to get the same effect that happened today. But if they shoot it through, say goodbye to a portion of Hollywood. We don't know if it's the big one yet. Anyways, we don't know if it's the big one yet. That, you know, this, I don't think so. I think that happens. Donald Trump contests, Donald Trump prints stimulus, one more top, and then dead. Anyways, oh yeah, I'm running late. See ya.